Maybe some of you wanted to push corruption and wonder if much changes or is it worth it. I was told in my review video of last Epoch my character was too unoptimized to take my opinion seriously. Hundreds of hours of my life later, what say you now? The big thing when you're pushing corruption on last Epoch is definitely having to focus more on defense than offense. Most of the characters are more than strong enough through passive points, base stats, and things of that nature to be able to take on enemies. And if not, then they're naturally tanky. So something like the Falconer, which I played, had to focus on defensive things like chance for glancing blow, armor, dodge chance, having all my resistances capped or as close as possible to cap, having things like the chest of the mountain to give that little immunity for 3 seconds upon being hit. That's really good for like the ranged enemies like the axe throwers or the archers. Things like chance to chill on hit, really good for things like the axe throwers and the archers as well, like the unique turquoise ring. Damage over time really starts to be a problem as you continue to go further up in corruption. Things like poison, bleed, etc. really whittle away at your health. Not even whittle away, they take your health down really fast, even if you have high health pools. So for me personally, getting cleanse ailment on shift, you could also get cleanse ailments on potion use. If you didn't already know, getting strength on gear boosts up your armor. Another thing also, if you're Circle of Fortune, getting the right lenses so that you can really stack up and get as best gear as you possibly can as fast as possible. I think that's really good to do. Get geared up rather than holding on to something and waiting until the perfect thing to slam on it. Sometimes I think it's better to just make the slam, because sometimes the slam doesn't even work. Another thing I've noticed is I swap my boots and my gloves out, because for bossing and then for monoliths, there's definitely like meta gear for each. You could possibly even have a situation where you need to swap some skills around and then swap like boots, gloves, and maybe even a chest piece depending on how high corruption you were pushing. I'm probably not going to personally push that far. I'm going to try to get like red ring or something eventually. One thing that I noticed as I was going further up in corruption was my minion, aka the Falcon. It goes off screen and aggroes enemies, and they come and attack me sometimes when I'm looking at gear on the ground. That can be really annoying. That happens when I'm like looking at my prophecies, sorting through, oh, did I get a 3 LP, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden I get killed by some brown colored skeleton that matches with the sand. I definitely did a whole lot of optimizing my character, rearranging some of the skill points and everything. One thing I will say about it is certain monoliths are definitely super crowded, and certain enemies, especially the axe throwers or the archers, they make the game really lag when there's high density and you tend to just get one-shotted or two-shotted, especially with the Falcon going off screen and attacking stuff that you don't see, maybe below you, half a screen away or whatever. You just get killed really easily. It does get really repetitive. Grinding corruption does take a long time. It probably would have been faster if this was my very first character and I knew what I was doing. I played a Rune Master to 100 before my Falconer, and I did that blind. I played the Falconer blind basically up to like 500 corruption before I even watched guides and knew what I was doing. So at that point, then I started pushing for stuff, and I also started incorporating the things I learned about the game and just having fun with it at that point. Throughout the process, I've found every item in the game except for like 2 or 3 different ones. I haven't found Paranoia and I haven't found Red Ring. I think I've found everything else in the game. I found Ravenous Void. I found Orion's Eye multiple times, even with LP. I found like 10 Omnises. Jungle Queens, I found it twice. I found that really rare staff, Omnividence, I think it's called. I found a bunch of stuff along the way. throughout the whole process early on in the game, I also didn't even know really how to use like runes of discovery or runes of refinement. I didn't know how to use glyph of despair, so I really wasn't crafting properly or making proper slams. It's all good though. I also didn't know how to use the loot filter properly, really. That's something to really optimize and make your playthrough and everything just that much faster. You'll even die less in levels because you'll be less curious about some bullshit over there laying on the ground that you shouldn't even be concerned with. You might wonder why you would want to push corruption in last epoch, mainly after 300. It's mostly to test yourself, to test your build, set a personal goal, whatever the case may be. Also, you get increased item rarity. You get more uniques that are going to have legendary powers on them. You're going to get more exalted items to drop. You're just going to get better drops in general. You're going to get more favor. You're going to be able to go to the observatory and you're going to be able to get more rewards, more target drops, more target farming, essentially. If you're Merchant's Guild, I don't really have much to say about that because I don't play online. Pretty sure that's only online. Here's the lenses that I'm using on this particular build though. I got the one. Why is it not telling me which lens it is? The one that prevents arena events. This is one that I just recently started using. This one's huge. Refracting lens of wealth. This one gives you more cost on your prophecies, but then it gives you double rewards. That one's huge. I have that on every single telescope. Then I have the reduced dungeon events as well. So I'm not doing dungeon prophecies, and I'm also not doing arena prophecies. So that's the way that I've been doing that. I've been swapping out these boots for my Lessons of the Metropolis. These were supposed to get dexterity and like a big hybrid health or something, but they just got this instead, unfortunately. Here's my gloves. I swapped these gloves on for the boss fight because they got minion damage. I actually have a pair of the gloves that have 120 minion damage, but they're lacking all the other good stats. Like that's a perfect T7 minion damage. But these ones have dexterity on them as well. They also have crit strike avoidance. Crit strike avoidance is minion crit strike multi, so it helps out for the boss fight. Otherwise, I'm using the Ravenous Void that I found because this is just good for the damage reduction. Basically 15% damage reduction when the stacks are up, and then I get 5% damage reduction while moving, and then I also get another damage reduction while moving on this rogue passive point, and then I get another damage reduction while moving on this Falconer passive. So as you're pushing corruption, things like that are much more important than like damage. I even sacrificed all my bow attack speed and all of my health points pretty much, except for a couple of them, literally just to get more of this damage reduction. As you can see, my health pool is pretty low, but I have a lot of good things like crit strike avoidance. I got glancing blow chance. Glancing blow is really good in my opinion. That's 35 damage reduction right there. That's just like a free damage reduction stat. Endurance is cool and everything, but I'm not trying to be below 442 health at this point. Doing 1,000 corruption, if I'm getting hit even for something that's getting reduced all the way at the cap of endurance is 60%, even if something's hitting me when I'm that low, I'm gonna be dead regardless. So I mean, I can swap boots around and do different things. One thing, I like to use Core of the Mountain for maps because that damage immunity after I get hit, like first off I'll use this. What this does is it gives me this Moonlight Bomb. It causes me to automatically dodge the next attack, guaranteed. That's free. That's a free cheat death essentially at high levels. Then we have the damage immunity. After that wears away inevitably, especially if I'm getting hit by ranged attacks and stuff. This makes me immune so I can run away, get to a safer area essentially. This is just such a good unique. This with LP is arguably the best item in the game, one of them for pushing. Defensively, it's just amazing, that time frame that you get. I like to swap this around with other things as well though, like sometimes I'll use this Kestrel. Like this is really good. This just isn't as survivable. This is less forgiving, but this is way more dangerous. I like this more for like dungeons and stuff because I can just get to and from a lot faster. This is just like a mobility armor. This is like the Enigma of last Epoch essentially. The crit strike avoidance is cool because you can pump up your minion crit strike multi a lot with that crit strike avoidance, and it gives a little bit of survivability. Really though, you're just getting 2-shot or 1-shot anyways at certain points. You're not even really getting 1-shot that much. Really what happens is there's axe throwers or archers, and like you get hit by like 10 of them at the same time, and then your computer starts having a memory leak because there's so many enemies on the screen at the same time, and you're just overwhelmed by everything going on, and you're having performance issues as well. Oh, let me show you some of the gear that I got along the way. Like look at all these Omnises. Here's the Orion's Eye. I was calling him Orion's Eye before. Here's the one I found with the LP. Well, the 2. Circle of Fortune. I got these. So I have good Foot of the Mountain. If I find a red ring, I have plenty of different options of things to work with to potentially, you know, have my full 180 stats or whatever. Like I got a lot of stats already right now. If I were to throw these boots on, like look at that, I pretty much have what, I definitely got 180 right there. So it's like, before I was actually thinking when I find red ring I'm gonna have some crazy math equation to be able to have enough stats to wear it, but I don't think that's gonna be an issue. I think the core of the mountain, I really like wearing this too for actually doing the Lightless Arbor dungeon, because this sometimes if you get hit by his boulders while you're doing the little phase in the boss fight, it actually hits you and you get the immunity and it saves you. So it just makes it so convenient. It's like that safety is sometimes more useful than this, and sometimes when you're doing, really when you're doing the monoliths, you just get an unlucky map roll. Like when sometimes when you get the combination of the archers, the ice guys, the other, like certain combos, you're just kind of like in a bad spot, and you gotta kind of either try to tough it out or you die and you go again. And usually after you go again, it's usually an easier map, ironically. So it's not a big deal at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get red ring. This hollow finger, once I put this in, this wound up being amazing. The chance to chill on hit, and then actually having Troca's teeth. This thing seems like it would suck, but the shred armor on there, imprinting the bow attack speed, and then having the freeze rate multiplier and stuff, the bow cold damage, that combining with this, and then combining that with the Morning Frost with the freeze rate multiplier and everything, that just does really good against bosses. That was my experience with that. Another thing that I changed from my last video, I actually wound up speccing my explosive trap into cold damage, and getting chill stacks and everything. This is just another thing when I hit like the archers and stuff that are at a distance. It's just so much safety. I mean, look at these guys. They're just like stopped in their tracks. You know, some things, if I rush too far through the level and I'm not aware of what I'm dealing with yet, then I'm not gonna, you know, proceed appropriately. Like right there, I'm sitting here thinking too hard to try to talk, and I'm not respecting the opponent. Rule number 1, respect the opponent. So yeah, I'll go over all of my gear real quick, just mouse over everything. I'm also going to turn off my face camera while I go through all my stats and all my screens. That way you'll just be able to see everything and my head won't be in the way. I'll actually swap these gloves, so that's what it's looking like against the boss. These have that crit strike avoidance on them just for even more damage against bosses and stuff. Here's the helm, amulet. I've swapped a bunch of different amulets, but this is just really good to cover all the reses and everything. And it's still got the minion damage on there. It could be 10 more, but you know, oh well. I can't talk enough good. Can't praise this ring enough. I remember when I found Ravenous Void, it was around like 300 corruption. It fell on the ground in the middle of a map, and I was just like, what? What is this? Didn't I hear about this on a YouTube video? Somebody saying it was one of the rarest items in the game. And then I found the bow upgrade that I was talking about previously on a couple of videos ago. Got the crit strike multi T7. You know, I was looking for a while to try to get like a T7 and a T6 to slam onto it, but this is good enough, honestly. You know, I could get better physical and minion penetration, but at the end of the day, I can solve that also with things like armor shred and various other things, as far as I know. You know, I'm still learning constantly. Here's all my idols. A lot of these kind of things are going to be kind of like problem solving things that you have to do on your own and weigh out, you know, cost and benefit of everything. What's the pros and the cons? And that's kind of part of the fun of it as well, just being able to solve problems, figure out what you need essentially for the puzzle. Hopefully I'm not going too fast through this. I'm sure if I go too slow, somebody's gonna tell me. If I go too fast, somebody's also gonna tell me. You can always pause the screen, I guess, if you really need to. People tell me put timestamps, but honestly, that hurts the video. It really does, sadly. If people just go to a certain time in the video, it hurts the retention rate or something. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You know, one thing that I would say is I think that they might have actually made some changes to the Lightless Arbor and taken down some of the blockades and stuff since I made the video complaining about it. They've had like 2 patches since then, and it literally feels like less of a maze. Maybe I just got better at it. I just kind of run up the middle and then decide which way things seem logically. Maybe I've just done it so much since then that, you know, now I kind of have the idea of where to go. Either way, hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you on the next one. Don't know what my next video will be about. Probably either a new build or something that I discover further on my path on here. Whether that's a realization, me finding a red ring, me coming up with a new build, whatever the case. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you.